Yeah, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, boys and girls. Today's what? Today's Thursday, 6th of March, and I am joined by it's Thursday or Friday? It's Thursday. Yes, 6th of June, not 6th of March, because I think it's 6th of June, 2021. So today I am joined by Jasmine and how do you pronounce your surname? Ng, right?
Yeah, just
Jasmine Ng, who is the founder of Engame, and a pleasure for having you. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jasmine. What did you used to do, and what do you do, and what are you planning to do? Becoming a Cypriot resident? I don't think so, right? Uh, I know what you used to do. So, for the people that are watching us, please.
Well, good evening, everybody. So glad that all of you can join us. Thank you, Evan, for having me on and having this little chat together. I've been a banker for 20 over years, and I left the banking environment to join, I guess, the fintech environment, specifically the blockchain revolution, because I see so much promise in the technology and what it can do to do change, to bring changes and good in a lot of the systems that is happening now. I am a co-founder of a game development company, a startup in Malaysia, and the main core of the business is basically to help businesses engage with their customers online. I mean, with today's digital transformation push, and then with the pandemic going further into this, everybody has no choice but to engage with their customers online. Not everybody can afford their own team of developers to create a differentiated engagement with their respective businesses and customers. That's where Engame comes in to help. We help you shape that as cheaply as possible. We are looking at a self-serve platform so that people can decide what they want to do it themselves, make it as simple as possible, and enable your micro and your SMEs to do this online. That's the main thing.
Since I spoke to you, I could be interested myself for one of the businesses I run, not the coaching business, another business, BPO. So we can talk about this offline, obviously. So today we're here to talk a little bit about how to be a strong leader remotely. And by being strong, I don't mean physically strong. I mean mentally strong, communication strong, influence strong. Because I do believe that it is crucial that organizational leaders, organization means, non-profits, profits, private companies, governments, departments. You don't necessarily need to be an owner. You could be a head of department. How to stay closely and attuned to what employees need. And managing a team remotely during COVID, it has challenges, particularly for people that used to, like me, and I suppose like you, we used to run our companies in an open door policy. So, what is your first thoughts? What are your first thoughts in regards to managing employees remotely?
So, very good question, Evan. I mean, when the pandemic first hit, everybody was scrambling to get online. The first things that leaders and bosses and managers had on their head was, how do I manage productivity now that I'm not sitting in front of my team and asking them for their deliverables in person, looking at them do their work or sitting at their table. So one of the things that as leaders that we had to do very quickly was to adapt. And not just to adapt, but also to set direction. Because in a time where change is so great, everybody's a bit lost. And as a leader, you need to be able to be consistent and be that pillar of strength for your staff. Whether you feel it or not, that's a responsibility you have. So the first thing you have to do is to set in your head, how do you now engage with your team when you are not supposed to deal with them directly in person? Face-to-face interaction now comes online. And during our conversation yesterday, we were talking about now all the communication is being shifted online. Those days when you texted your staff on a WhatsApp or send them an email. Email not as bad, I guess, but on WhatsApp and SMS or Telegram or whatever,
Slack,
yeah,
whatever,
Slack,
all this. Yeah.
you don't expect a response until the next time you see your staff, which is likely the next morning. So you could text them at 8 o'clock at night, just after dinner watching TV, and the staff doesn't feel the need to respond because they know they are seeing you tomorrow. But in the environment of a pandemic where nobody's seeing anybody, everybody is seeing each other via this, what do? When you text them at 8:30 at night, they feel a responsible, productive staff would feel compelled to answer you. Now, what does that mean? It means
So
that while they are,
it means you text your employees 8:30 at night. Do you encourage that or you don't encourage it?
well, I won't, not in this environment, unless you set very clear parameters with your team that whatever time of the day that you text them, you only expect them to reply or even read your messages between work hours. Then it gives them mental space to rest. Because
Yes.
in a work from home environment, this is office. So, and this is also recreation and communication with family and work. So how do you separate the two? And this is where you need to set boundaries very clearly as a leader, what is acceptable. Because if you don't, then there is a lot of assumptions going on, and that assumption can cause a lot of mental and emotional stress, which is not necessary.
So I guess what you suggest, and to make it clear, today we're not here to tell people what to do. We are here to share our practical tips from experience. I guess combined we have, I don't know, 30 plus years experience. So we are sharing practical tips. So practical tips. So the first thing that you suggest that leaders do is to set the expectations in both written and verbal form. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean, it would be better for themselves and for their team. Then you would feel less frustrated if they don't respond to you at 9 o'clock at night, because you've already set the boundaries, so you understand where they are coming from. And they feel okay that you send them at 10 o'clock at night a text or anything that is work related, but they know that you are expecting them to only respond the next day at 8:30, 9 a.m. So it gives them space to rest and breathe and have a little bit of recreation and refresh themselves for the next day. Right. So it could work if they try it.
Yes, I think it works, and I think setting the expectations is the most important part. Because if you don't tell them what you expect, and if they don't know, and also vice versa, they should also know what they should expect from you. Because maybe some of the employees, I've had it in some cases, some of my people, they send me an email at 10 o'clock at night, and I mean, as you said, this is work. I check all my emails, but sometimes, I need to respond, in 2, 3 hours. So I think it's a two-way communication to set the expectations of what we expect of each other. Because it's challenging, I mean, for myself, with my experience, I've been working from home and from both office and home during the last few years. So it's not totally new for me. But for employees that used to commute every day and go to the office environment, as you said now, their kitchen table and the laptop and the phone is their office. So it is sometimes very difficult to switch off. So setting the expectations and communicate is step number one. What do you think about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minute one-on-one conversations?
I think that would be a good practice. Again, it is important to set it clearly that this 15 minutes is not a performance review all the time. The 15 minutes is just to catch up in terms of how are you doing. Many people may not be fully aware, but there is a lot of mental and emotional breakdown in the home environment because there is now no longer a separation of work and home and family space. And on top of that, kids are at home because schools are closed, daycares are closed. So They are running all around and it's all within that confined space. So there is always that friction and that constant noise and activity. And children can be quite demanding and they want to be engaged, especially when they see you and they're thinking, why isn't daddy or mommy speaking to me? They're there, they're right there. Why? I want them to come and talk to me. And you can't because you're working. 9 to 5 is still work hours as far as your employers are concerned. And as an entrepreneur, you want to have a continued, engaged, motivated workforce. You don't want to be the one who is doing all the lifting in the company. That's why you've hired a workforce, a team. You want the synergy of a collective force. So it is important to have that one-on-one, 15 minutes, maybe every 3 days or so, but it's not a performance review. So it's not additional stress. It's more like, hey, I'm not getting to see you in the office. We used to chat that 5 minutes when in the morning when I get my coffee and I see you. Now I'm replacing that with this, just to see how you are, how are things, is the internet working, maybe the laptop needs to be renewed, stuff like that. It's just to say that, we are also about you as a person, not just about you as an asset to the company or the business. And that helps. I believe it helps go a long way to inspire staff loyalty, staff motivation, and encouragement to do a lot better and go beyond what is your written job scope and produce more for the business and the company.
And I think during these times, the small things, the small conversations you have with those people can make a big difference. And as you said, it's not a performance review because having a coaching or a personal conversation, like I call it virtual coffee, it's not a performance review. Because if I don't know, but if you always, people will resist to then talk to you virtually because they will think, oh, again about my production, again about my tax, and again about this. So they will try to avoid it. So I think it is a trap that we all need to be careful not to turn those friendly but professional virtual coffees into performance reviews. Somebody is saying if there will be a recording of this conversation. Yes, it will be a recording. Let me just reply. Yes. Okay. So you mentioned,
Sorry, Evan, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm supposed to mute you, not me. Sorry, I'll mute you now to manage the sound. So you used a very nice Greek origin word, synergy. So how do you engage and you synergize employees? We talk about 15-minute one-on-one performance non-performance review charts. We talk about knowing the boundaries, when to text, 9 to 6, 10 to 7. What other tips? For example, what do you do in your company that helps people get engaged? How to synergize? Synergize is a good word, because it's like they mesh, they collaborate, and so on. So what else do you do?
So, as a leader in your company, a manager and somebody who is meant to help set direction, to some extent the strength and the weaknesses of your staff. So we always play to each other's strength. You know your own strength and weakness as well. Nobody's perfect. So the key here is to know your people. And how do you do that? Before the pandemic, if they are not brand new hires, you would have already have some idea as to how they are operating, how they are like. And so you need to build on that and constantly keep in touch. Not forgetting that in this pandemic environment, because circumstances have changed quite drastically for a lot of people, they themselves would be going through certain changes themselves. So this is where the 15-minute, every other day, just catching up. Hi, how are you? Keeping it professional, yet to some extent personable in terms of understanding if there are other challenges outside work that may impede on their performance, right? So while you may have that, you are allowing your staff to share with I would believe you would come across as a neutral person from their personal life, so that there is also another valve for them to express certain things that they may not be able to at home. That's one. Two, knowing your staff's strengths and weaknesses, then you need to clearly communicate expectations. That, okay, in the course of this 1 month, this is the project that we have to deliver. This is the new client that we have onboarded. These are the roles that I see each of you doing, because you're having a team meeting and you're going to be open about it. And you're going to allow your team to then say or suggest to you what would be very comfortable for them to deliver, what would be a growth, a push, meaning they will need help for you to coach them a little bit more to achieve a new level in their own performance. And then ultimately, as a team, come together in consensus that we will be able to deliver this project satisfactorily within the time frame and within the stipulated costs for the profit margins that you're expecting for the company. So these are very practical things in terms of how you would engage with your staff. Now, when you have that kind of open conversation, two things happen. One, the staff feels included, and therefore they feel empowered, because now they are part of the solution. They are part of the discussion as to what they will give to you, give to the team, give to the company, give to the bottom line. So they will fight for the roles that they say that they have promised, and they will deliver. Two, as a collective, this is where the synergy comes. I know this friend of mine, this colleague of mine is very sloppy on the details, but fantastic on strategy, big picture, road mapping on a high level. So I will fill in the shoes because I'm better with details. I don't want to think too high level things. I like it that I'm managing the task day to day. Let me fill that part. And then as a team, the entire project will run smoothly despite the fact that nobody's meeting each other face to face. You still meet, you still engage, the communication lines are very clear, expectations are drawn up, everybody knows their position on the field, who's playing defense, who's playing offense, and who's doing goalkeeping. That's important.
What is your view on shifting individual targets to team targets?
Well,
what do I mean? Rather than having a aggressive individual targets, shift this in order to maybe increase engagement, increase productivity, increase collaboration to a team target. What is your take on this?
well, again, you need to know the reason for it. Why are you shifting it from an individual target to a team target? Have you increased the target for the individual so much so that you believe he or she may need a bit of support to start with? Or has that person left the team and therefore this person's target needs to be now spread across a team? There are many different dynamics at play and reasons for such a scenario. Whatever the reason, when the requirement comes to shift an individual target into a team target, now if the individual is still within the company, you need to communicate with the individual why. And are you replacing that person's personal target with another set of personal target, lifting this onto a team level? What is the reason for that? Communication first before announcement, right? And then when you shift it to the team target, who on the team would be most affected? You may want to have that one-on-one conversation first before announcement again, and then make the announcement. I know it may sound like a lot of work, but the reality is it's probably 2-3 Zoom calls with respective individuals, and then make the meeting.
I think leaders now and managers really need to be able to wear different hats. I remember when I was managing people back in the UK 10 years ago, it was a different style. It was more rah, 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 one solution fits all. But this is not the case. And you really need to get to know your people. What are they struggling with? What are they happy with? What are they not happy with? And this is, and sometimes, as you said, the most simple questions will give you the best clues as in order what steps you can take further. For example, how is the internet connection? Is your partner working at home? Because maybe some people, I have some that they will not respond during the day. For example, they will respond at night because they have communicated their working schedule with their house partner, and they are. So you take care of the kids in the morning, I take care of the kids at night. It is a real scenario for working parents. So I think as a leader is you really need to get to know your people, because if you don't know what kind of environment they are living in, it is difficult to manage. What about I right now and I'm going to share with this video later on with some people. I am running a couple of my clients now. They come to me and we are on a program because they are leaders, executives. They feel overwhelmed. They say, I do this, I do that. I'm a leader. I have all this mental weight, and at the same time, I'm not an employee because I need to employee. They need to manage their tasks. The manager need to manage their tasks and the employees as well. So they feel overwhelmed, they feel burned out, they feel tired. Some of them, they haven't traveled for a year, so they're like going crazy. So what is your take, your suggestions on executives who feel burned out and overwhelmed?
There is no shortcut. You need to take the time off. I know as entrepreneurs like myself, to say that I'm going to take a time off it almost feels like I'm being irresponsible. Like, don't call me between 5 to 6, 5 p.m. to 6 a.m. Don't call me, don't text me. I need that time to rest, to be with my family, maybe watch a bit of TV or read something that is not related to work. You need to take that time because you know the responsibility you carry for the entire organization. Now, if you don't take that time, you know who's going to pay for it? Your entire team. Everybody's going to pay for it because you won't be optimal. You are not clear in terms of your direction, and your communication would be all over the place, and the entire team will be confused. So if you need, like a lot of people I share this with, I say, in between meetings, you may need the 15 minutes just to breathe, because the meeting, it's back to back Zoom, Google, Skype, Teams, whatever. And because we're not leaving the space, we think at the click of a button, we are joining the next meeting, which should not be the case, right? Think about when you had to drive from one location to another. That 10, 15 minutes in the car was when you allow your brain to finish that meeting and then prepare for the next meeting and the next set of audience. Do the same during Zoom, during whatever. Schedule for yourself 10 to 15 minutes in between Zoom meetings just so that you can breathe. And clarify, because you don't forget, you're the leader. When you walk into a meeting, when you click join meeting in a Zoom, people are looking at you for your cue as to what they should say, when they should be quiet, so on and so forth. And the worst thing, and this is what's happened to me before, you are on the Zoom. The team is texting you on the WhatsApp chat, asking you, boss, do we agree with this term? Boss, do we say this? Do we say that? And we have WhatsApp web on our laptops. We're looking at the laptop camera and the WhatsApp ping is up and running, and you're looking and you're toggling. So you need to make sure that you're centered. It's important, because if you don't, you're the most important person in terms of helping the rest of the team moderate and operate. So take that time. Don't think that by taking that time you're not operating. Actually, you are.
You are, absolutely. And if people see you tired, frustrated, angry, dry, exhausted, you are a reflection. You are the captain, right? The buck stops with you and you have the responsibility. Unfortunately or fortunately, this is not the case now to discuss, but that's how it is. So what about, we live in uncertain times. So how do you set the vision of the company, of your department, of your country, of your, state in a foggy, not physically foggy, but in a business foggy, society foggy environment? How do you tell people, if you don't know yourself, where are we going?
So as an entrepreneur, I mean, barring the pandemic times and all that, why do we start a business? We've always talked about passion. We've always talked about a dream. And that's why people start business in any environment, be it a pandemic environment or a normal environment that we are used to. So when you remember that, I call that remembering your first love. Why did you start that business? Go back to the basics. See, when everything else is changing, going back to the basic gives you a certain amount of clarity and focusedness. And you pursue that with a passion. And once you are clear as the leader of the organization, your troops will get behind you. Boss knows where we are going. I can't see my hand from my face because it's so foggy an environment, mentally, emotionally, and physically, maybe. But I just need to follow boss. Boss knows where we are going and we are going there. And he or she is very clear. This is the North Star, let's go.
So you go back to your why.
Yeah. Go back to your why, go back to the basics, go back to your first love, go back to the passion and the reason why you started the business in the first place.
Yeah. What about trust? This is a big word, and if you were a micromanager before the pandemic, not you, generally speaking, if for people that are watching us, if you were a micromanager before the pandemic and going over the binocular and your employees and what they're doing, I'm sure you're having a hard time now. Because how are you going to observe what people are doing when they're working at home, right? So how do you build that trust within your department, within your company, within your country? What is your opinion?
Well, for the micromanagers, I hope you know you're a micromanager. By knowing that, that's half the battle won. Then you tell your
team.
So
self-awareness, number one.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you tell your team, I'm a micromanager. Now this is how and what it takes to win my trust. Now you tell me, how do we work on this together? And then when you have laid down all these things, you must be consistent. And that's how trust is inspired. Because when your team deals with you and you are as good as your word, then they will follow your word. Meaning, when you say certain things, you don't do a U-turn for no reason. Look, market forces change. We all understand that there are times that we need to change direction. And matured, professional, intelligent people all understand that. But people can observe change in personal values and U-turns on those things. So avoid that as much as you can. And when you do have to change direction, do communicate. It is a sign of respect, and respect is mutually earned, right? So and that is also the beginning of trust. So when you have to change something that you've previously communicated, then share why. And there is nothing wrong with being a micromanager. I know people say, oh, micromanagers are so difficult to work with. Yes, they are, but you must also understand the micromanagers are also very good at setting direction. As long as they are clear, that's fine. You just need to tell them today at half day. First half of the day, I've accomplished this. Second half of the day, I'm going to do this. By 6 o'clock, you will get this. The micromanager will be happy.
Yes, absolutely. Because normally
Right.
they are a very detailed person, they want to, or whatever. Because being a micromanager is a little bit like being in a bad relationship before and you lost your trust. And you go into a new relationship, and the new relationship will have to bear your psychological issues from the previous relationship, but they don't deserve it. So what do? You have to communicate. You say to me, this is what happened to me before. I don't judge you. I don't say that you will do this to me, but in order to be in clear terms, this is what I expect from you, and this is what you should expect from me. Because it's a relationship. It doesn't matter if it's personal or professional. It's the same thing. Last question about new hires. You mentioned new hires before. All the interviews right now are taking place online. There are people that are hiring and training people online. How do you make sure when you interview online that you are going to hire the right people?
So the thing about hiring online now, I think it helps to some extent. You can ask for a lot of credentials, online credentials, because it's all online now. You can ask for their Facebook and be a friend for the moment, Instagram, Twitter, and all that. And through all this interaction, you would have an idea as to the person that you're looking at hiring. Of course, their LinkedIn profiles and all their professional achievements would be available to you. And then the online conversation and the mannerisms and the words that they use would also inform you as to the kind of person and what they are thinking about and how they are thinking. And then you make your decision based on that. But we've always said all new hires, all hiring processes has its own risk. There's always a percentage of opportunity that you got a great person, and there's always a percentage of risk where it's a lemon. Well, not necessarily a lemon, but the person was unable to fulfill or fit into the team dynamics and the work requirements, possibly. So there is, in Malaysia, we have probation rules. So you can rely on that. After 3 months, if the
6 months, whatever. Yeah.
but 3 months, give them a review. If they're not doing so well, 6 months, say, look, it didn't work out. Thank you very much. Let's not waste each other's time. And be very professional about it. Yeah.
So, are you a fan of hire slow, fire fast?
No, actually, I'm a fan of whatever the team needs. Let's look for what is the gap. That's important. I think.
Do you? I think do you give time to people to develop? When you have some this team member, and sometimes you say, yeah, but they can be. So, well, because some managers do this. I coach people, and they say, Evan, I don't know, shall I fire this person or shall I not? And my gut feeling, and they be try. So there are some managers that do this. They are selling themselves some excuses. So what do? Do you follow your gut feeling? Do you combine it with data? Do you see the culture, or does it come with experience? How do you decide hiring?
So hiring.
Especially into firing, right? Because hiring is a bit different, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of firing, allow the staff to see where I'm coming from. And I'll tell them up front. And I have no concern in confronting a bad performer. Look, you are not a bad person. So let's separate the performance from the person, right? You're not a bad person, but the performance is not up to scratch. So if this cannot change in the next 1 month observably, you need to figure out for yourself where else you want to go, because I don't believe any staff would want to stay in a job that they are not performing or adding value to.
If they genuinely want, yeah, absolutely. If they genuinely want to do well, exactly.
Yeah. So if you tell them very honestly that as a person, I'm sure you are fantastic once I get to know you on a personal level, but on a professional level where the team's needs are coming into play, you're not fulfilling your role as a team player, I believe they would understand too.
So you really need to, I think, especially in Asia, where people tend to get a bit emotional faster than some other countries. You really need to separate the person from the result. So you need to communicate it properly.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Final thoughts before we end. Your last thoughts about um, the future of work, how to be, let's go with the title, how to maintain your leadership influence and to keep productivity, to keep people happy, how to be a I mean, you know what I mean, but a good leader, a strong leader, an influential leader um, during this time. What are your final thoughts moving forward? Because the pandemic, we're opening, we're closing, we're opening and closing is very uncertain. So your final suggestions, view.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. At the end of the day, when you're working with a team, which we all say is our greatest asset, then you need to let them know you care about your greatest asset. Not just because they can give you value, but because they do add value, regardless. So, this is where people will recognize that, okay, even when you have to confront a bad performer, it's not a bad person that you're talking to, it's just a performance because they know you care. So it makes all the conversations a lot easier because people know where you're coming from. You're coming from a position of care. So always be sincere about your caring, be open about your communication and expectation. Make no excuses even if the mistake is yours. Own up and just keep telling the team in terms of direction where we are all heading.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I will look forward to probably see you again.
Yes.
And I hope people can listen and they can implement, because yes, we really live in challenging times, and being there for your people and caring for your people, irrespective of good results, bad results, is very important. And even if you let somebody go, as you said, the last thing you want is this person to go out and become a bad ambassador for your brand or for your company, right? You want people to leave with a heads up, proud, and even this is not the case, to think that it's not their fault, it's just the company wasn't suitable enough for me. Even if you know deep inside you as a leader, this is not the case, but this is how we should also want our people to live with that feeling. Do you agree?
Well, I think as a core, I believe that to be true. That every single person wants to perform. So if they can't in that environment, it's because of many factors, not necessarily a fault of theirs. It may be, and I may or even say that you're not hungry enough. You don't want to learn. And so I can't carry on with you.
This is very important, especially when it comes to sales teams.
Yes.
If you are not hungry, if you don't have a PhD, poor hungry, what do you call a PhD? Poor hungry. We don't mean hungry, physically hungry. We want to succeed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm very sincere about the fact that if you don't perform, I will do my best to enable you to. And if you still can't, then let's call it a day. Uh, a choice of being a good ambassador or bad ambassador for the organization after you leave or otherwise, that is a personal choice. The mouth and the tongue belongs to them. So they decide what they want to say. I do the best that I can. I sleep well at night. My conscience is clear. And that's that.
Well, one more question, because you said if you are not hungry and you are bringing up a lot of things, and one of my potential clients, we haven't signed a contract yet, he came to me the other day and said, "How do I motivate my staff?" And I said, "You can't. You can bring the water to the horse, but you can't make the horse drink." So, do you motivate your staff, or do you set the vision and whoever wants to follow?
Yeah. So I set the vision. If they are agreeable, well, if this is the same direction that they want to follow, then we will journey together. If it is not, this stuff won't stay long.
Yeah. you're very straight to the point. I like it. But at the same time, you are empathetic. And I think this is a very good combination because by getting to know you, I have the feeling that you will be there for me. I can call you anytime. I can WhatsApp you anytime as staff. We call it staff. But I know that I can't take the piss. So it is a very good balance. And this is the feeling I have. And I'm sure Engame for this aspect will do very well. So what is the future plans for Engame? Just to finish like this.
Well, we hope to be able to produce the next Dota or PUBG or CSGO, a full-on game for people's entertainment while helping businesses engage and retain and inspire their clients for loyalty.
So your solution really helps retain clients, right?
Retain and also create loyalty.
Create loyalty and engagement. Yes, we have discussed about it. I'll give you a call about this probably next week.
Sure, no problem. Anytime.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jasmine, again, and looking forward.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. You too. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Jasmine.
Bye.